Welcome to the culinary scene. I am Chef Mike, and this is a virtual ownership session on range tops and cooktops, fondly called Cook On. Everything that is on top of a Wolf, either range or in your countertop, we're going to talk about today, and we're going to prepare a very simple recipe while we do that so you can see these pieces in motion. A couple of pieces of housekeeping. This is a live interactive session, so we encourage you to submit your questions. You will do that by clicking on that chat part of your screen. And then if you don't already have an account, you just want to create one within YouTube, all it's going to take is an email address. But that will allow you to ask questions throughout. Now, we have a great team here that's doing lots of things, but one of them is we have a moderator who will be receiving those questions and fielding them to me at periods, at different times. If it's something I know I'm going to get to, I may tell you to hold. If it's something that is perfect in the moment, I'll make sure I address it. But for sure, I want to make sure you leave this session with answers to everything that you had a question about. Now, we're going to start in this area with an induction module. We're going to come back in a few minutes. We'll shift down and we'll talk about both gas burners on a Wolf cooking surface as well as the griddle. Now, I do not have a live char, so I will address the description of that when I get down in front of that dual fuel range in a few minutes. So on your induction surface, one of the great things about induction is its ability to do things in a quick manner and yet be really, really, really clean. But you're just not limited in anything that you may use on it. I'm going to do a simple pasta dish, and we're going to do that by bringing this pasta water, which is not to boil now. I'm going to bring it to a quick boil. We're going to add some pasta to it, and I'm going to grill some lemon to go with this dish as we talk about an induction surface. Now, if you already have your induction surface, you probably have a good understanding for how it works. If those of you that might be joining us to learn more about these surfaces, let's do a really quick description of how induction functions. Now, it actually uses the pan as its heating source. Okay, so it doesn't use any heat transfer from below the glass or anything else. What it does is it activates carbon steel particles in your cookware, and that becomes the heat surface. Now, if you think about how that's done, there is a magnetic array underneath the glass. Now, what an array is just a coil that changes the polarity from north to south, and it's that motion that makes the particles get so excited in your pan that your pan becomes your heat source. Now, you need to have enough of that carbon steel in there for a refrigerator magnet to stick. And if you have any questions about cookware that you may be considering, do you need some more cookware, don't hesitate to reach out to your closest showroom, send us an email. We'll be happy to share with you what we have found that works very well and what we like. We'll stop short of recommending a particular pan so you can still make that choice. But know that it needs to be pretty flat, and it needs to have this enough carbon steel to engage the array that's underneath. Beyond that, there's nothing about how this looks that has anything to do with, other than the look, than the old electric resistance that you may have had at one time. There's no red glowing coils under here. The controls are very straightforward. On the existing unit, there's a low or a simmer all the way up to a high with about 10 gradation points total in between. They're not numbered, but there's 10 gradation points. For this pasta, what I'd like to do is use a feature called Boost. Now, what Boost will do, depending on your configuration, you'll have more than one area that you can boost. When you are using Boost, it draws about 140% of the power from the entire cooktop to that one area to allow you to quickly bring something to a boil. Great for pasta, crab boil, even a shrimp boil, whatever you might need to bring to a simmer. Now, there's not a whole lot of things I actually cook on Boost because I think it goes really, really fast for people. But if it's something you think you need that extra boost of power, just be diligent with watching it and don't step away from it. When you're using Boost, it will decrease the other areas down to about a 50% power, but they will come back as soon as Boost is disengaged. Now, it will turn itself off in about 15 minutes. which is about twice as long as it'll take this pasta water to come to a boil. So boost is a great feature for that. The other feature that is on our controls is bridging. And what bridging allows you to do is to join two areas on your surface. Now, which ones you can join varies a little bit by surface type. If you have the induction range, there's 4 areas that can be bridged. If you have the 36-inch induction cooktop, there's areas that can be bridged. On this 30-inch cooktop that I'm standing in front of, you can bridge the leftmost 2 areas. That gives you a full coverage front to back. Perfect for a griddle pan, or maybe a roaster coming out of your oven with your turkey and you're going to make a little pan sauce. Put it across these, and then when you hit bridge, you can control them identically with one control. You've probably always been able to do that maybe on a gas range where you look down and you balance the flame back and forth a little bit, trying to get that perfect heat. The advantage to induction is it is this entire array linked together with one control. So it's really handy when you're doing those things. We do have several griddle pans that we have found that work very well with Wolf. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to your local showroom. We can give you those references. We like to send you links so you can go do your work. Now, carbon steel, we talked about, very great to use. Cast iron, fabulous on these surfaces because it's all carbon steel. So I'm using a cast iron grill pan, and we're going to fire it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to grill some lemons. We're making a seafood pasta diablo. So we're going to griddle some scallops and some shrimp. We got a farfalle pasta coming out of here. We're going to grill some lemons in this skillet, grill pan skillet. And then we'll switch down there. We'll finish up those other elements. We're going to do a pan roasted tomato sauce on the patented Wolf dual stack burner. Now, from your vantage point at home, you know you could do this whole meal on one surface. Our whole goal in this virtual session is to show you the whole family of products. If you can see, and I don't know how well your picture is, but there's starting to be some steam rising from the top of this pasta pan. It has not been on that long. I'm going to put the lid on it and let it come to a full rolling boil before we add our pasta, but I wanted you to see how quickly about 6.5, 7 quarts of water has come to a boil. It's really close. I do believe in seasoning your pasta water. Believe it or not, I think it should taste more like the ocean. Not quite maybe that briny, but it should have that briny flavor because pasta may have a little bit of natural salt in it, but as soon as you throw that into a 6 quarts of water, the salinity balances. So any natural salt that was in that pasta has now equalized over the whole liquid. So you're not going to have any salty taste. And salt is what's going to bring out the nice flavors of pasta. So if you salt your water, everybody says, whoa, I put in like way too much salt and I'm going to ingest that salt. Unless you drink the pasta water, you're not going to ingest that salt. But what it does is it holds the natural salt in the pasta in check. So it's always important to salt your pasta water. I usually like to do it once the water has gotten nice and warm and started to maybe beginning to simmer, because I don't want a pile of salt sitting on the bottom of my nice pan. Sometimes that can cause pitting over time. All right, let's talk about the controls on the induction so you get a good sense. We've talked about boost and what that does, bringing about 140% of the power to a single surface. We talked about bridge and combining 2 areas. But the basic controls that go from simmer to high with the gradations in between, it is not in your induction cooktop necessarily linear. So if you went to 5 in the middle, and they're not numbered, but if you went to the 5th gradation, that is not half of the power you have. In order to give you, because Wolf is the masters of heat transfer, and in order to get you that control through the lower range, and you folks who cook a lot, you know you're with me, I need control through the whole range. Sear is amazing, but I got to be able to control my heat through the whole range. In the first 7 positions, very small incremental changes in power to give you lots of control. And then 8, 9 high, big jumps in power to get you up to a rapid boil or you want to really bring something to a simmer, or I need to saute, right? If you're going to saute something, you always want to get that pan, the pores open and get it warm. I will tell you though, with your induction surface, you don't need to preheat your pan on high. I know that's a new concept, but you do not need to preheat your pan on high. The whole point of preheating your pan is to open the pores of the metal before you add fat so that you don't use as much. If you put oil in a cold pan, you end up putting more than you think you do because it doesn't spread out. Once the pan heats up, you probably have more oil in there than you want. And then when you add something like an onion or a vegetable or a piece of protein, that oil splatters to the side of the pan and you get that brown splatter around the rim, the inside rim of the pan, which is more difficult to clean. So what you're really looking to do when you're preheating your pan is somewhere around 7 or 8. Preheat it, probably 90 seconds to 2 minutes is all you're going to need on induction. It is significantly faster than what you may be accustomed to, so keep that in mind. It's about a 2-minute preheat, and then you ought to be able to feel the evenness of your surface. One other thing is if you're somebody who makes caramel, in understanding the differences the way induction works as compared to a gas burner, if you've ever made caramel in your gas burner, the coloring of the sugar as it slowly burns starts on the outside edge. When you're working on induction, it browns completely across the entire surface at nearly the same time because it's activating, what's the heat source? The pan. So it activates that pan and gets the entire surface heated. There's a great recipe video in the culinary scene on how to make a caramel on induction, and you get to watch that in action and see how it turns all at the same time. So I can hear my pasta water, not quite there. I've got some nice heat on this grill pan. I'm going to go ahead and put the lemons down on there. I don't know if you can hear that food sound, but anytime you get that little sizzle, that's always a good sign. That means our pan was warm, we've gotten what we were after. And all I'm trying to do is just put a little char on these. One of the things, if you've been cooking for a while, caramelizing items brings a ton of additional flavors to that item. If you grill lettuce, for instance, lettuce has one flavor. Grilled lettuce has about 100 because you've got different layers of char, and that's why caramel is so complex. It's just sugar and water. But when you make caramel, all these other notes of toasty and nuts come out. So we've got these lemons getting a little grill mark on them, which will just bring a little bit of additional flavor. And we're just going to squeeze them over the whole seafood dish. As this water is finishing up, let's talk about one other thing. There's a timer located on this surface that allows you to time a particular dish. And it is most notably the easiest to clean. When you're cleaning your induction surface, now I recommend let it cool, please. Wolf also recommends that. Let it cool before you get too crazy. But you're going to show, because it's a piece of reinforced glass, it's not weak. This is cast iron. It's not going to scratch your surface, right? It's just fine. I wouldn't bang on it, but you can move things around. It's not going to be a problem. If you notice after you've cooked something that there is something on the surface, it most likely came off the bottom of the pan and has nothing to do with the surface being damaged, okay? If the bottom of your pan might have a little oil or something on it, it can just cause things to transfer. Or if you're using a pan that is worn on the bottom, you might see some marks. They will all come up. Typically, the only cleaning I do on this is with a microfiber cloth. It's the easiest way to do it. If I need to get it damp, that will be it. Periodically, though, I will have something that just needs a little more work to get up. You get a little sample bottle of glass top cleaner with your unit, and this is something you can pick up almost anywhere in a grocery store. And when I want to get that polish back or get maybe that stuck on stain back, then that is what I use. I'll use that with a cloth, let it dry, wipe it off, clean away. There are even some instances where it makes sense to use a glass cleaner, but but I tend to minimize that as much as I can just because I don't want that residual on my cook surface. All right? I got a beautiful rolling boil on my pasta here. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to add the pasta. Stir it up a little bit just to make sure it's not stuck together. Now I'm a pasta pot lid off center. And it's going to go, let's set a timer. That pasta is we'll go a solid 11. And I'll probably be down at the other end by then, and we'll have sous chef Gil come out and transfer the pasta to me and bring it down to the finish on the other side. Let's take a look at these lemons. And you saw me turn that pan on and how quickly now we've gotten some nice char on these lemons, just enough to give you a little bit of flavor. That pan, probably the solid cast iron pan, probably heated up in about 4 minutes total to this smoking hot temperature. Make sure you monitor your pasta water so it doesn't boil over. You got a very powerful burner. I'm already off a boost, right? And now I am on position 8, and I'll be able to continue with a nice rolling boil in there doing its thing. So, induction. Really quick, really clean, and a great reactive surface. If you got any questions about your pans, it's a great time to do that. If there aren't any questions on induction specifically, I'm going to transfer down to the other station and pick up our discussion of cooktops down there. All right, now I'm down here standing in front of a dual fuel 48-inch range, Wolf dual fuel range with a double griddle. Got a question?
Yeah, Mark would like to know, is the volume or tone of the timer adjustable? He says my 36-inch range has low volume and a high-pitched beat. Can I change that?
Mark, great question. Mark asked if the tone on his induction timer and burner controls is changeable. It absolutely is. It's in the extended options section in your use and care guide. And what you do is you go in and you can change the volume. I think there are 3 levels of volume, and I think there are 3 different tones, only because there's a lot of beeping going on in your kitchen, and you want to be able to make one that makes sense for you. So look up the extended options section for your range or cooktop. It'll show you exactly how to make those changes in there. Great question. I actually had a customer who had a dog that was trained to sound, and she called me in a panic because it was going off and the dog was looking at her like she was being very mean. All we had to do was adjust it to get it out of the zone that was triggering that. It's a great question, and I hope you find something that works in your case. Okay, Wolf dual fuel is what I'm standing in front of. You wouldn't know if you have a sealed range top. It looks the same from your side. Gas cooktop that have the stainless steel beds. All Wolf burners are created the same. And that's a really nice thing to have. And if you want to come back and see great detail on this, but the way Wolf gives you full heat control through the entire cooking range is they use what's called a dual stack burner. Now, the burner has 2 sets of burner holes on each burner. It's not just on the small one. It's not just on the biggest one. It's on all of them. And how they achieve that is normal gas comes into the unit, splits into a high volume and a low volume line. The high volume line feeds the sear burner on top. And you're not going to be able to see it completely, but you have this huge burner, right? Huge flame. We're happy about that. That's how we sear. We got to have that. But just as important, a low volume line runs to the bottom set of holes, and as you turn it down on your cooktop or range top, you'll hit the bottom of the upper range. You'll see the word sim. You push the knob in and keep turning. And what it does is it extinguishes the upper ring completely and lights that lower volume ring, and you can go all the way down to the point that you can barely see this flame. And it is comfortable, believe it or not. 300 BTUs is what they go down to. This is where you melt chocolate without a double boiler. This is where you hold tomato soup or game day chili for hours, no scorching. Wolf giving you that whole control through the range on burners makes a huge difference in how we cook. We don't sear soup. We don't sear sandwiches. I need sear so I can do scallops or shrimp or chicken, but we need this control through the whole range. The other thing to note is it doesn't cycle on and off. As you sit here and I have it on this low setting, you don't hear it click, click, fire, extinguish, click, click, fire, extinguish. If yours is clicking that much, call service. You don't want it clicking. But what that allows is that lower simmer ring stays perfectly lit and consistent. And I'm talking consistent for hours. Really, 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 really valuable to have. If you have a dual fuel range, there's a halo light around that burner to remind you that it's on. If you have a sealed range top, you have a little indicator light right above to remind you that it's on. If you have a cooktop where all your knobs are on the surface, you'll be able to see that directly. So, simmer feature on every burner, super important. In all of the Wolf configurations, the upper left, the rear left burner is always the smallest. In this configuration, it's about a little over 9,000 BTUs. It will go down to 100 BTUs on its lowest setting. All of the rest will go down to that 300. So if life happens, dog bolts out the door, somebody needs attention in the kitchen, you can turn everything down to simmer. You don't lose your progress on anything, everything stays there, and you can go deal with what you got to deal with, come back and pick it right back up where you did before. Now we talked about that briefly on induction, all that control through the bottom half of the range, bottom 7 positions of the range, super important, and that's how they do that with these gas burners. Now, I will talk about cleaning these in a few minutes. I want to get on and get some food cooking here. My pasta is going to be done. What's the timer on that pasta? 4 minutes, so I want to get the rest of this started. The main piece that I want to talk about, in addition to the burners in front of us here, is the griddle. It can also be configured in an indoor grill, which is called a char. I don't have a live char. If you've got any questions about your char, depending on which piece it's on, it is an infrared gas burner in all of them. The control depends. If it is a dual fuel range, you have full control through that range, a really nice heat deflection shield. If it is a sealed range top, it has high power only on, but then it has gradation front to back, so you can find your cooler spot. I think the chars are amazing for bread and vegetables and seafood and chicken and pork. I stopped just short of a big juicy burger only because big juicy burger rendering fat onto an infrared gas burner might create more smoke than your beautiful Wolf vent can handle inside. So just think about what's going on there, but the char is a great selection. The other piece you can select once you get above a 36 and up is a griddle. Now this griddle, I'm looking at a double configuration here. It's a double griddle. I have 2 heat zones. It has 2 gas infrared burners under the surface. And so if you think about that, I can heat up one side, leave the other side completely cold. I can do them at 2 different temperatures on this double, or I can do them all at the same temperature. It kind of depends on how you want to approach what you're doing. Think about this as an infinite saute pan. Anything you can cook in a saute pan, I can cook on here, and I have more space. I'm never going to overcrowd it. It's always going to work right. It is about a 1/2-inch piece of cold rolled steel. It has been seasoned. If you look at this beautiful dark surface here, and you may remember how yours came, or if you haven't, maybe the one you saw in the showroom, it's bright and shiny. But bright and shiny doesn't mean it's going to cook the way you want to cook. You have to season it and take care of it much like you would a cast iron skillet. Wolf takes you through that seasoning process. Our chef team will take you through that seasoning process to make sure you get this, and then you'll be comfortable cooking on it all the time. That process involves, first you heat it up, ventilation on, heat it up a little bit. Actually, you don't heat it when you first do it. Warm towel, a little soap, clean all the manufacturing oil and dust off of it, because it ships with that on there, you want that off. Then vent, then heat to 350, and let it go a solid 30 minutes. You want it to get really, really even and heated. Then you turn it off. Let it cool slightly. What slightly? 10 minutes, maybe 15. And then you want to take, for a single griddle, about a teaspoon of oil. For a double griddle, you want to do 2 teaspoons of oil, up to about a tablespoon total. You want to take a paper towel that you have folded into a number of layers, and carefully, with an oven mitt, work that oil into this entire surface. You want to make sure you work it in evenly. You don't want any puddles anywhere. You want to make sure you remove any excess, but you want a really nice, even coat all over this surface. Then you want to repeat this process, heat it back up. You'll probably see some smoke the second time it goes up, back up to 350. Let it get there. You don't have to hold it 30 minutes. Turn it off, let it cool, add another coat of oil. Now, I'm not just trying to add oil to it. I'm really trying to create a micro level of a coating between the carbon steel and your food. To do it with olive oil, make sure you go to one of those olive oil boutique stores and get something that is got a high enough smoke point that you can actually saute with it. I don't mind finishing with olive oil on a particular dish, that's fine, but I stop short of a hard saute on here with pure olive oil. So what else works? There's the usual suspects of accessible oils like vegetable, canola. I really prefer something like a grapeseed, or even a avocado oil does really, really well. I can't make an economic argument for it, but it's a really clean, high smoke point oil. You can essentially do what you want, but know that if you use something with flavor, that will transfer. I had a client who told me she was going to season hers with bacon fat. And I told her that is fine, that will work, but you do know everything will taste like bacon. And she said, yes, I don't see a problem with that. And so she used that in hers. But just be careful about your oil choice. There's a question.
Yeah, can we just mix what kind of oil to cure it? So it can just go up like that?
Sure. So it is important, and what the oil I use to season it is the same oil I end up cooking with. So look in your pantry and see what kind of neutral high smoke point oils you have. Vegetable is fine, but it's not really a high quality oil. Canola is fine, again, not a high quality oil. So grapeseed, avocado oil, and there's even one rice bran oil is one that one of our chefs here has recommended a few times. Any of those, higher smoke point but very neutral. It's worth investing in that. It's not super expensive, but then that's what you will cook with every time. So you're constantly relayering the seasoning on there using that same oil. Great question. Okay, so we got our surface here. We've got it heated. We've got it seasoned. I have it set at 400. I'm going to sear some shrimp and scallops right here, and then we're going to make a little pan sauce. So I'll add a little bit of oil to my surface, and I'm going to add a neutral oil here. Then we're going to add our scallops. Now, if you're shopping for scallops, you want dry pack scallops. Dry pack scallops. If you don't know if they're dry pack, ask them. It may be on the packaging, it may not. What's the option to dry pack scallops? They've been injected with up to a 25% saline solution for freshness. I don't know about you. I don't want my seafood injected with anything to be fresh. I just want fresh seafood. This is an easy thing. Dry pack scallops, they could be frozen, but dry pack scallops. The difference is, if it's a dry pack scallop, you'll get a crust, soft as butter in the center, and a crust. If it is not that, all of that saline solution purges out and you end up steaming your scallop, not sauteing it, not searing it. Now, because of the way that burner's designed, thank you, chef, you can cook on this whole surface, front to back. I can go without any difference in color. So we'll put some in this middle here. I don't have that many to do, so I'll drop a couple down here so you can see the gradation throughout. That one, beautiful. I typically don't like to season my seafood until right before it goes on the griddle. Should have done it on the plate, but I can quickly catch up. A little season on there. Now the next thing I want to put on here to cook with the scallops is some shrimp. And these are peeled and deveined shrimp. So I'll put a little bit of oil in with them. And then I want to season those as well. Now shrimp have a little more salt naturally, so you don't want to get too carried away. And because I just coated them in oil, I'm going to be able to drop them right on here. And they're going to cook really quickly, which is awesome. Now if you think about, we're going to clean this at the end, and you don't have to clean a pan that had scallops and shrimp in it. That's going to be a big bonus because we're going to clean it right on this surface. Beautiful. All of those are on there. So while our seafood is searing and we're getting a crust on those scallops, let's start our roasted tomato pan sauce on our dual stack burner. I am going to preheat my pan. Excuse me. And I want to get the pores open on my pan, right? Then I'm going to be able to add very simple. We're going to add some grape tomatoes that I've just cut in half. And then we're going to add some sliced garlic to that and let those flavors kind of meld a little bit. This is a quick pasta, which is why we did the pasta first. I know you might think that's out of order, but you're going to see how quickly this dish comes together while our seafood is cooking. So let's take a peek. My pan is preheating. It takes a couple of minutes. Let's see if any of these scallops, what our crust looks like yet. Not quite. Still doing its thing. Okay. So we're letting the pores of our pan open up, and then we're going to add just a little bit of oil. It does take a few minutes for that to heat completely up. In your cooking surfaces, your largest burner is to your left front, opposite the small one. The other two are really close in size. Visually, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between those. Slightly more power to the front, slightly less power to the back. You can remember that. Our shrimp, you can see, is starting to turn color, and what that means, how do you know when shrimp is done? And I don't know how much of it you can see. I'll hold it up. But what's interesting about shrimp is it cooks a lot faster than you think. And if you wait till it's bright white and red stripes, it's probably overcooked. And if you look at it and you say, "Ooh, just 2 more minutes," it's definitely overcooked, because shrimp on a hot surface typically take about 90 seconds to 2 minutes per side, and then they're done. So we're about ready to start turning these. Yep. You can see they have that little bit of saute on them. That's how fast they went on after the scallops, right? But they're ready. And we'll probably be ready to turn our scallops too. Beautiful. Our pan is probably preheat now and ready to roll. So we'll add a little oil to that. And you know if the oil runs right away that your pan was hot enough. To this, I'm going to add all of my grape tomatoes. I just cut them in half. If yours are super small, you don't even have to cut them in half, because we're just going to let them roast and burst a little bit. All right. So they're going to break down. The reason I'm even heating tomatoes is cooked tomatoes have so many more flavors. Remember the caramel discussion? With more flavors comes with color. You're bringing the natural sugars out of these, so they're going to have so much more flavor. We'll finish turning our shrimp. Very nice. Now let's take a look at these scallops. Doesn't have the crust I want on that one. Let's check this one. Yeah, I want a little more crust on those. Not got enough crust on those yet, so we're going to let those go just a second longer. Now, while our tomatoes are breaking down, I do want to add a little bit of salt, not a lot. And now I'm going to add some garlic. Now, my garlic is sliced, not minced. So many times we add garlic to a recipe, we've minced it really, really fine, we heat our oil and we throw the garlic in first. And the next thing that happens is the garlic burns. And it burns quickly. And once it's bitter, there is nothing you can do about that flavor. There's nothing you can do to change it. So by slicing the garlic, now I can let it sit in this pan at a higher temperature and kind of toast. And what you'll end up with is almost that roasted garlic flavor. Yeah, it's a big slice, but it's not going to be raw once you get it, and it's going to flavor all of that. My other option would be to chop it very finely and wait, and wait, and wait, and then put it in for the last 45 seconds or so. Again, you'll smell that and you feel it moving. Okay. See what we got going on here with our scallops. There's a little crust on that one. Now we're getting a little nice brown crust on there. And let's see how we did all the way back here. Did we get the same crust? It's up there, same crust. See that? Really nicely done. Very even front to back. Nice. So they're all coming together. Our pasta dish is quickly headed towards. All right, our toasted garlic is in there. Our tomatoes are starting to break down. That's all smelling wonderful. I want to add a little bit of red chili flake just to give it, you know, we said Diablo, so it has to have a little bit of spice to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off and just let it do its thing. I'm going to add a little bit now of olive oil to it because that will help with our sauce. And now I'm going to add the shrimp directly into that dish. They're cooked and ready to go. They're starting to meld now with the tomato flavors in this pan. I got nice texture on those. They're not overcooked. They got a nice little juice to them. I think shrimp should be just as juicy as any other food that you eat, so don't overcook them. But the heat is off. It's now just in the melding flavors portion. Wonderful. Check in on our scallops in a moment. The last thing we'll do is we're going to season this dish. Let's talk about how we're going to clean this griddle, and I'm going to demonstrate it as well. One of the first things you need to do after you've cooked on it is to remove any stuck on food. No matter what you've cooked, you may have some residual stuck on food, and that's not going to get any better as the griddle cools or you use it for something else. So I usually take what's called a bench knife and remove everything that's stuck. Now, I'm not quite there with my scallops yet, so what I'm going to do is see if that second crust on those. Oh yeah, nice and juicy. Crust on the bottom, light. I'm going to put those into this pan as well. And then all of this we're going to dump over a bed of spinach with some pasta noodles. Now, if you're picking out your scallops, you can always, and a lot of them are sushi grade scallops, so you can get that perfect brown crust and yet not have to worry about undercooking them. But scallops should have that nice firm texture when you push on them, but they should not be bright white. That's the thing. Bright white seafood, shellfish, means that it's been overcooked. I just want to nestle them down into this. Now, the only thing we're waiting to do is to put this together, but because I'm letting these flavors come together, let's do a quick scrape on this surface. So taking my bench knife, I just want to scrape everything that was on that surface into this removable tray that's in the front. And this allows you just to get rid of all of that cooked food product. Boom. Just like that. And you want to do that right after you've cooked. Now you have the option of whether you're going to go entertain or whether you're going to clean it right now. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down to 250 still hot enough to boil water, right? But not 450 or 400 where we were, that might cause flashing, because you don't want to do that. So let's compose our dish, and then we'll come back and clean this at the very end. Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to take this pasta, and I'm going to stir that into this as well. My pan's going to be a little full, but that's okay. And got a little bit of the pasta water left, just a little bit, a little starch there. And then we'll just turn this. I just want to get a little bit of that flavor on the pasta as well. We got tomatoes, we got garlic, we got the little bit of chili flake in there, and then we got shrimp and scallops all off the griddle. We're going to get this just nice and warm with all those flavors melding together. If you don't want to combine them in one pot, you can always combine them in a bowl, toss and coat them, and then add them to this. But the idea is I wanted to get all those flavors just kind of hanging out, loving on each other before we put them on the pot, on top of the bed of spinach. All right. Tomatoes have almost completely broken down now, so you'll see they have their little bit of meat left, but almost all of the sauce juiceness of the inside of a tomato has been given up to the sauce. And this is really a light word for a sauce. There's not a full form sauce here. But what you'll find is, especially with summer cooking, is it doesn't take much, just a little bit, and you have these wonderful flavors all come together. Okay, now, let's put it on our bed of spinach. Tell you what, I'll put that over here so you can see it come off a little easier. Scallops, shrimp, pasta, and those tomatoes. And if you've put it on a bed of spinach, you just snuck in a vegetable that nobody was expecting, and they're super happy because it has this beautiful green color, and you get this wonderful pasta dish with green underneath, tomatoes and pasta. Now, I'm not trying to portray this as a very complicated dish or very crazy, but so easy. And you get this whole big platter of deliciousness created super quickly. We're going to top it with a little bit of cut parsley. Beautiful. A little sprig of salt. I want to do a little drizzle of our olive oil. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take our grilled lemons, and we're going to tuck those lemons. I'm going to take a little bit of juice. I'm going to take those lemons and just tuck them on the plate so your guests can kind of pick up a piece and add it to their dish. There we go. Now, we're almost to the finish line. The last thing we got to do is to clean this griddle. So I'm going to put this right out in front here, long enough for me to do this part. Now, Wolf recommends that you clean your griddle after each use. You don't have to get crazy. Depends on what you cooked on it. But you're going to almost always want to clean the surface a little bit. If you think about the folks that are in charge of allergens and how allergens work, if you clean this properly using steam, it lifts all the allergens off of the surface. If you think about, we seasoned this, right? We added oil, we opened the pores. Then if we add water, oil floats on top of water. So that supplants that oil that may have some impurities in it or some flavors from the pasta. It supplants those, puts them to the top, and then you can get them off. Now, I didn't really trash this griddle at all. What I was cooking didn't leave much of a residue at all. If you've cooked something, smash burger night or something else, and you want to kind of clean up a fair amount of stuck on stuff before steam cleaning, what we recommend is a 3M griddle cleaning pad. These are available either online at the Wolf store or at online other places, but this is an elevated temperature cleaning pad. It goes up to about 325 degrees. So as long as my griddle's cool enough, and what you can do, if I have an area I need to work on, I want you to put oil on this, and then using this simple handle that kind of gives you a nice weight of evening pressure. This doesn't come with that griddle cleaning kit, but it is something that is valuable in trying to put pressure down, and then you just want to kind of clean. This is only with oil. I'm really not cleaning. I'm just ensuring that I've got nice, even spaces. I don't really have anything that I did on this that requires this level of cleaning at this point, so I'm not going to actually scrub that in there. But it's oil, just a little bit of the same oil you cooked with, and scrub those spots that are looking like they need a little bit of love. Then once you're done with that, what they recommend is steam cleaning. And the way that we think is the most efficient and gives you the really best results is to just get some kitchen towels. And you need to get some that you're going to use just for this purpose, right? And then you can wash them and keep using them. But we just got some kitchen towels that we're going to lay on this surface. So let me get a couple of them wrung out. Just sitting here soaking in cold water. What this is going to do is add the water to the surface and start that process of really steam cleaning it. Your griddle is low enough, you don't have to worry about anything burning, right? We'll get that steam sizzle on there. And then what this is going to do, two things. One, it's going to give you a nice, easy way to clean this surface. Don't do that. It's getting warm under there. Use an oven mitt if you need to. Now, if after doing this you still have cooked on food, like got really crazy with the teriyaki or the stir-fried rice or something else, Wolf does make a griddle cleaning kit. It's available either online from a Wolf store or at Amazon. It comes with a chemical strip type cleaner and those pads, and it allows you to really take that all the seasoning off and go back to close as it is to factory as you can get, and that ends up being the surface that you start over the seasoning process. So if you go to the chemical cleaning stripping kit, the orange goo with the pad, you're actually going to do it at an elevated temperature and you're going to take all that seasoning off. Here's a question.
Going back to the food and cooking, can you sear or cook the shrimp and scallops in the pan using the cooktop because she doesn't have a griddle?
Absolutely. Yes, one of the things, a great question. She asked if you could do the scallops and the shrimp in a saute pan. Absolutely, you can. In an effort to try to touch as many surfaces, I could have done it all in the induction. I could have done it all in pans on here, but we wanted to try to introduce as many pieces. But to your point, yes. Make sure you have enough room in your pan to space those scallops out, right? You don't want them all on top of each other. Space them out. And I would do them in 2 rounds. I would do the one and do the shrimp and then come back and do the scallops, or vice versa. I would do one and then the other. But you can absolutely preheat your pan, get those pores open, add a little bit of oil, and saute those scallops in a skillet or a saute pan on your induction surface, on your gas cooktop, or on your griddle as we did. So great question. Absolutely you can. All right. So I'm going to gather up these cloths now that I've got this done. Wow. It completely cleans and evens that surface. All the food is off. It has steam cleaned it. But now, what do you need to have? Every time you cleaned your cast iron skillet, what did you do at the end? You put a little bit of oil back on there. And that's what I have to do now. Now that I've gotten all the allergens and food residue off of here, the last thing I want to do is add just a little bit more oil on there and work it in with a paper towel. So we talked about that before. About a teaspoon there and about a teaspoon there. Take a paper towel, fold it so I have lots of protection for your hands, and then you just want to gently work that into the entire surface so that you have now a beautiful, even cooking surface again. And tomorrow when we get ready to cook pancakes on here, It will not taste like shrimp and scallops because of the way we cleaned it. The fact that we used steam to lift all those flavors off there, I can be sure that there's not going to be any flavor transfer. Once this is completely cool, then you can remove this little catch tray that has our food and our oil that we cooked in. Once it's cool, you can remove it to your sink. You just want to clean it with regular dish soap or dish detergent. Wouldn't put it in the dishwasher. It's made of the same material as your burner grates, so it's a cast with a porcelain coating. You want to make sure you don't put it in the dishwasher because it might discolor. The one thing we didn't talk about cleaning is in your burner wells. If you have the gas cooktop and yours is all stainless steel, you want to make sure you always clean with the grain of the stainless steel. There's a product you might want to use. I use a microfiber cloth on that. If you need to get up a burnishing ring, you have a stainless steel cooktop that has a brown ring around the burner. That happens when heat hits a large pot and reflects back down. The product that Wolf recommends is called Penny Bright, P-E-N-N-Y-B-R-I-T-E. It is a copper cleaner and stainless cleaner that they recommend that will take those brown burnishing marks. The only thing you need to make sure you do is you don't go around the burner like this on stainless steel, because you'll see that mark and you'll never forget how you did that. And make sure you work left and right with the grain. Now these burner pans that are present on the sealed range top or your dual fuel range or your all gas range, these are porcelain coated and they'll take a lot of abuse. These I start typically with a microfiber cloth to wipe it out first, but you can go to town with Barkeeper's Friend or Bon Ami. Depends on where you're from. I'm from the South, it's Bon Ami, but it's Bon Ami. Either one of those make a nice paste. They're here, and you can scrub away on this surface. I tend to be gentle with my liquid. It is sealed, it's not going down anywhere in the thing, but I don't want to fill it with water either. If you happen to introduce something into one of the gas holes, and you'll know that because you'll turn the flame on and it won't be quite even, you can take a toothpick or a bamboo skewer and you can push through that hole and see if you can get full flame. If you can't get it back, I would call service and let them come take care of that burner. So when you're cleaning, just be sure I'm not pushing a bunch of that Barkeeper's Friend paste up into those holes. There's another product over here that works very well too on cleaning those. This is a power paste that works super well on cleaning any of those burner wells or surfaces. Your burner caps can be taken to the sink, just scrub with regular detergent. They're cast, just like the grates and this. So you don't want to put them in the dishwasher, just scrub them and put them back. I would recommend that you don't do any of this until it cools down. Don't do it while it's hot. When it's hot, you're going to either have a chemical cook onto something or you're going to get burned. So just let it cool down, and then you have totally time to clean all of it. All right, we've got our pasta. You saw how quickly it came together. Yes, we talked about doing it on induction. We talked about induction, easy to clean with a microfiber cloth. We used a grill pan down there. We talked about how it worked. We had the pasta that came to a quick boil using Boost. We moved down here to the gas. We talked about dual stack burners. We talked about the function of the char, which I don't have live, that indoor grill. And then we cooked on our griddle and cleaned it, all in the time of this class. So this is something you can do. And I think you will find something you want to cook on this griddle every single day. And the only daily cleaning is just like we just did. We take it off, we steam it, we clean it, we put a little bit of oil on there, and you are good to go for the next day. Okay, questions about anything we've talked about? I want to thank you for coming. There is a couple of downloads that I want you to reference in that. If you go to the description of the class, there's 2 documents linked there. One is a Roth Living Use and Care Guide. Wolf puts together a use and care guide for every single appliance. Roth took on the project of putting them all together into a single reference that is really, really valuable for you to use. So if you're close enough to a showroom, they have a hard copy for you. If not, you can download it in the PDF that's in the description. The other piece is a griddle temperature guide. And this is something that your griddle knobs go from 100 to 450. So it's really important to know if you're going to cook something, what temperature it might be. And this guide was just put together with meats, seafoods, vegetables, eggs, and other, just giving you some sense of where to go with temperature. That's the second document that's there. There's a question. The problem with the green Scotch-Brite is it will scratch. You need to use the blue Scotch-Brite pads. They're non-abrasive. The green ones have enough abrasiveness in them. You may score that or scar that, and you will not forget it. Definitely not on any stainless steel. And what Wolf recommends is the blue Scotch-Brite. That blue pad's less abrasive to scrub all of these surfaces, the grates, and your burner caps. Now, inside your stainless steel pan, which you decide to cook your scallops and shrimp in, green's just fine. You can go to town in there with the green pad. So inside pans, yes, I would not use it on the burner grates, wells, caps, certainly not on the stainless steel under the surface, and you will not need it on the induction. So I think the long answer to your very short question is no, don't use it. More questions? Yes?
What temperature should we target
For
for cleaning on the griddle?
cleaning on the griddle, what's the target temperature? When you're cleaning that, you want to get it down to about 250. Steam and water is going to boil at 212, but I want to be slightly higher than that. But I don't want it at 450 because if you drop those wet towels on a really hot griddle, you're going to get a lot of steam and flash, and you're not going to want to deal with that. And so drop it to about 250, give it about 10, 12 minutes, then go to town on cleaning. So 250 is that question. Okay. I want to thank you for joining us on these. We do these virtual sessions throughout the month. Please come back if you've got questions. Please follow up. Our chef team is just here. One of our main focuses is owner education. We own you for the life of the product. Come back another time if you need to. We just want you to get the most out of these products always. So once again, thank you for attending. From the culinary scene, have a great day.